But as for the actual sport of basketball, Jay Crowder tells MassLive.com that Kevin Durant choosing the Warriors over the Celtics was a slap in the face. Crowder says that Boston had courted Durant by dissecting the team's entire game plan, complete with video and scouting reports for defeating Golden State last season. So, Tony, should Crowder be mad at Durant or mad at himself and his own team?
I find it very hard to believe that a scouting report on how Boston beat Golden State is going to find its way into the Golden State pregame strategy meeting. I mean, you can just pull the tape. Pull the tape, look at the tape. There are no secrets after the first time. Honestly, I think Crowder sounds like a loon in this. I mean, he's baying at the moon about, he's a scorn lover. They wanted to have Kevin Durant. He went somewhere else. He said, but we told them all the secrets. I'm sorry, there are no secrets.
I want to know what the secrets are. I'm with you. But I also think that this story alone single-handedly justifies Kevin Durant meeting with 6 different teams in the Hamptons. It justifies not only the foot rubs that he is due as a free agent, but also the idea that there is intelligence apparently being shared. Maybe that intelligence is not consequential on the level of a one-stop solution for solving the Golden State Warriors, but man, maybe this is why he didn't want to meet with the Lakers. The Lakers had nothing to offer him in terms of intelligence.
After this story happened, after Kevin Durant left for Golden State, I had, not an argument, but I had a discussion with Wilbon. And I said, I think this is bad for the league. And he said, no, I disagree. It's not bad for the league. And I said, I just don't know how the league now interests anybody in paying attention to a regular season game that doesn't have Golden State or LeBron. I mean, that's all anybody is going to care about from this point on. And as for the other thing that Crowder said, that in the body of the piece, he talked about how everybody now hates Golden State.
They're the villains now.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought of them as the New England Patriots. And I sort of like that. I mean, if in fact that's true, if everybody hates them now and they particularly hate Durant now, that at least is interesting.
Absolutely. Even if the games may be decided well in advance, the fact that there is general enmity towards that team.
Do you believe that? Really?
What, the hatred?
Yeah. I'm not sure I believe that.
I'd like to believe that because that will make these 82 games that much more interesting.
We move now to more nonsense from Kevin Durant.
Ah, yes.
Durant told Michael Lee of The Vertical that he doesn't care about his legacy, and he doesn't care if people like him. Durant said, and I quote, I want to be liked by people that I think love me. People I don't know, I don't care about. I want you to respect my game, and if you don't, that's your problem, but I don't want to be liked, unquote. Durant is clearly under fire, as we've talked about, for going to Golden State, which now has an embarrassment of riches. Pablo, are you buying what Kevin Durant is selling?
So, Tony, Kevin Durant should not care about legacy. He should not care about what other people beyond his loved ones think. But man is a political animal, right? This is Aristotle 2,500 years ago. This is Twitter right now. I do not buy this for a second.
This is Ted Cruz last night,
absolutely,
by the way.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The act of getting in front of a crowd tends to intoxicate a person. And Kevin Durant, as a young man who's under the age of 30, I don't buy that he's at that level of enlightenment.
Not for a second. Yet. Not for a second do I buy a word of this. I mean, I want to say that the two most overused and misunderstood words in all of sports these days are legacy and culture.
Yes.
They are vague amorphous words used by vague amorphous people. We're not going to use them here. There's plenty of time for Kevin Durant to write his story. He's got a lot of years left. Winning championships will help. Losing championships will probably hurt. But not for a second do I buy that he doesn't want to be liked. We all want to be liked. I've seen Kevin Durant in the last 2 years or so change his outward personality to something that I don't particularly like. He's particularly chesty. He's sour towards the media all the time. I don't know if he's listening to bad advice or he's come up with a strategy himself that he wants to position himself as an angry guy. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think he's listening to the media. One of the things that I have on pretty good authority is that Kevin Durant listens to sports television, which is to say that in the experiment of what is his legacy and how much does he care about it, we're kind of like scientists.
He listens. Hi, Kevin. Hi. Nice to see you.
We love you. But no, there's this phenomenon of like scientists putting their thumbprint on the petri dish. We are the ones deciding what his legacy is, and therefore we may have some role in terms of what's actually going on with this guy.
By the way, he's also, is he not quoted as saying that Westbrook played no part in whatsoever in him leaving for Golden State? And you know my opinion on that. My opinion on that is not that they're not friends, but that you don't want to go through a contract year with Russell Westbrook and watch him take 40 shots.
Style of play is a separate consideration. Yeah. And newly retired Ravens lineman Eugene Monroe, speaking of Players Tribune writers, he wrote an essay for for the Players Tribune, in which he explained a sincere love of football but admitted that he is terrified at the prospect of having CTE. Monroe, who was just 29, also advocated for medical marijuana research and expressed concern about opioid overuse in locker rooms. So, Tony, how should Roger Goodell feel about Monroe's retirement letter?
I think he should feel the same way as I feel and probably the same way as you feel, which is that we love to watch football and we're becoming increasingly afraid that football players are going right down the road to having degenerative brain disease. And if I'm Roger Goodell, my takeaway from this letter is this: we've got to try to make football safer. We've got to try harder than we're trying now, because you're seeing younger people. This is becoming a trend. Younger athletes, Calvin Johnson, Marshawn Lynch, they're walking away, and part of their concerns in walking away is their physical health. And people may have felt this 20 years ago. No one expressed this 20 years ago.
Right. Jared Mayo, Percy Harvin, Ricardo Lockett, all of these guys are joining that list. And if I'm Roger Goodell, I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second. There is a valid point here. The 90% of brains, NFL brains, that show signs of CTE, there is a correlation-causation question, and that is, these are self-selected brains. So maybe it's not 90%. Maybe the science isn't there yet. But what I'm worried is that Eugene Monroe has specifically pointed to other causes for those symptoms. He's pointing to opioid addiction, which one NFL player told me last week is the most underrated epidemic in football. He's pointing to mental health. He's pointing also to alcoholism, these other issues which tend to conflate and confound our observations on what's actually going on with brains.
He has talked about, and this isn't the first time he said it, he's talked about advocating the use of medical marijuana, especially for people with CTE, many of whom do not know they have CTE till it's
too late.
It's very advanced. But why would the NFL be against that? The fear, it's one thing if you say we don't want our players, our active players, smoking marijuana, getting in car wrecks or whatever might happen to them. But medical marijuana for people diagnosed with a severe condition, why would you ever be against that?
It's an absolute scientifically validated, it's a utility. And my fear, I think what their fear is, a lot of black guys doing drugs. That would be one fear, which is totally unreasonable, but consider how we celebrate Super Bowls, championships in locker rooms. We spray alcohol everywhere, right? We're okay with that, but not marijuana because of the stigma that it carries.
You feel this is a perception issue?
It's a branding issue, unfortunately.
Rob Manfred went on ESPN Radio this morning where he was asked if he would be in favor of limiting the amount of relief pitchers who appeared in one inning and in one game. The thinking being that these changes in pitchers slow down the game and that relief pitchers have become too effective. And the commissioner of baseball actually said, and I quote, "I'm actually in favor of something like that. Relievers rob action out of the end of the game. We're talking about that a lot internally," unquote. My God. Pablo, are you with the commissioner on this?
I'm leaning in his direction because there is something about the predictability of the outcome of the modern baseball game. Last season, 70% of Major League games were won by the team that scores first. There is something to the idea that bullpens are better than ever and being better managed than ever. And you'll notice, by the way, so that 70% mark had not happened since 1968. What happened in 1969?
Lowered the mound.
They lowered the mound. What happened 10 years or so after that? The DH was instituted. Baseball tends to reform itself to achieve entertainment value. That's something historically they've embraced. This seems to be along those lines.
That's a nice speech, Sparky.
Thank you.
It's insane what the commissioner of baseball is saying.
Okay.
This is an anti-talent position. It's an anti-merit position. If I am fortunate enough through my scouting to stockpile 3 or 4 guys who throw with accuracy and touch 100 miles an hour, and you have to get through them to win the game, then by God, you have to get through them. And we shouldn't legislate that ability out. We shouldn't legislate the talent out of the game or strategy out of the game. Baseball is supposed to be the thinking man's game. You play, it's 1 against 9. That's how it works. If you deprive people of the strategy, you deprive people of talent, that's insane. You want to shorten the game?
Yes,
don't let the manager go out. When the guy comes in to relieve, don't let him warm up because he's warmed up back there. Cut your beer commercials down a little bit if you want to do that. But this is anti-talent, anti-merit. I don't know how you can see it any other way.
So I think the strongest counter-argument is actually not even the talent part. It's the idea that there are all of these teams that have been architected around bullpens, right? If you're the Yankees, if you're the Royals, the Astros, even the Dodgers now. What do you say to those teams that have signed all of these guys to those contracts?
Well, you can't say anything.
That would be my concern.
You would expect that the commissioner of baseball would look at exactly what he has said in the last 10 or 12 hours and say, I've got to revisit that. Because you're taking away strategy, and you're taking away scouting, and you're taking away talent. I don't get it.
You like the chess. You like the every batter as a new relief pitcher.
Sure. Okay, let's take a break. But coming up is Mississippi's Hugh Freeze finally facing punishment for alleged payments to Laramie Tunsil.
And what's the word to describe Jeremy Lin's latest hairdo?
And by the way, it's 50-50 that I'm wrong. I mean, it is. But I want to take a strong stand.
The microphones are still on, Tony.
Oh.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by the Brewers of Guinness. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour. And in part by Pfizer.